Hi friends, Chris is another watch video. This is a video request. This time for James. And the name of this video is it 1990 still scary? I think so. I do like the first. I like all three of them. My favorite is the first one, but let's check it out. And this is by my buddy JM Light. Great YouTuber, great horror fan.
Like a lot of other kids, I grew up having nightmares about this evil bastard, Pennywise the dancing clown. And he's probably one of the best characters primed for the topic of childhood fear. A lot of people growing up were afraid of this movie. This is a movie that eats its way into a lot of
He was
nightmares
creepy as a kid.
And the movie really frames him in a way that kind of feels incredibly imposing, especially to a kid. What also adds to that is kind of just that so much about this character really is especially disturbing in concept. He's really got a way about him of just keeping things light while also kind of disturbing, unsettling you, making you want to keep away from him. And I even remember telling people, even just the idea of a clown that lives in a sewer taking kids, and that being enough to send them home freaked out. But how about today? As an adult watching it from 1990 through the lens of an adult. So it's not like this is the first time I've seen this movie since being a kid. I've watched it throughout the years. But for some reason, this viewing especially hit differently. It really plays differently, especially as an adult, and it's almost kind of shocking, to be honest. As a kid, it felt like there was an aura around this movie that existed. So much about it, it felt like I didn't want to
creepy. He is Pennywise.
So scary, and I knew that I was just going to freak myself out thinking about it and watching it again. But I've gone back to it over the years, and this is a movie that I just see completely differently now. It's weird to think about how when I was a kid watching this movie, I would close my eyes when Pennywise grabbed Georgie with the most horrific images I could possibly picture in my head of what's going on. When the movie cuts away and doesn't even show what Pennywise does to him, it's honestly so weird to think about the fact that I made it way worse just by closing my eyes and letting my mind do the work. And I honestly think that that's probably the thing that separates my viewing from childhood, my viewing as an adult. And honestly, I think it's almost that kind of idea that makes the adult aspect of the story a little bit weaker. Scenes like the shower scene, you just feel this uncanny valley kind of thing from Pennywise, especially in scenes like the shower scene where Pennywise just has this uncanny feeling to him that's really creepy.
It opens a fucking drain pipe.
Helpless, cornered trap. You really almost live through his eyes when you're watching it as a kid, and that's something that's kind of harder to connect with as an adult. And it's that loss of imagination, that loss of kind of living through the characters that is what I'm talking about when I say I think the adult side of the story just comes across as weaker than the side of the story about the kids. Everyone experiences that loss of imagination with growing up. It's just a natural part of it. I still got a lot of love and nostalgia for this movie, but I think it's just watching this through this frame.
It's a classic.
It's a classic. Different. My perspective on it really has completely changed. It's a very cheesy movie by no standards. Do I really find it scary anymore? Obviously, there's just so many effects, things that just don't really work anymore. Many cheesy moments. A lot of the monsters that it turns into are not very scary, but it holds a special place in my heart, and especially for how it's scary.
Yeah, I own
it. I really connect with the adult side of the story and finding that connection and resolution to kind of childhood. It really is those characters that brings me back to this movie. It makes me continue to gravitate towards it, towards the story, towards the book, towards the movies, because this movie really does have one of the largest gaps in how you watch it when you're a kid versus how you watch it when you're an adult. I think that they're completely different experiences, and you almost have to tend to them as such. I have a hard time imagining an adult watching it at this age and finding anything of real narrative value to it, finding it scary at all. I think there's a lot to appreciate about it outside of the scares, but because of the reputation of this movie, it's kind of hard, I would imagine, for most adults to push past that. But even though I don't find it scary anymore, my appreciation of the movie really doesn't.
The acting was great.
I'm always going to have those memories
by the kids and Tim Curry's Pennywise.
Engaged by this movie, even if it was for a terrifying reason, and the characters, of course, are engaging and lovable. Tim Curry's Pennywise is still top dog performance in my opinion. And Bill Skarsgård's great for a lot of different reasons.
He is.
I think that he approaches Pennywise from the idea of him being an alien, kind of impersonating human beings. That's why
I saw the first one in theaters when it came out.
He seems like an alien or something inhuman trying to mimic, come across as human. And I think the disturbing aspect of his version,
he was creepy too.
He just fails to quite meet that.
When the eye thing does.
What's really interesting about it is that he almost feels predatory. He manipulates the promises of things you want, things about your life you want differently, and he comes across in a way that's almost more authentic, bubbly than
that's creepy.
Skarsgård's. He actually does kind of come off as human, but what's really scary about Tim Curry's performance is that you almost see the lights switch off. You see where Pennywise the dancing clown ends and where Eater of Children begins. And he seems very human in that way where it's almost like you can tell where he's at the tipping point. He has what he wants, so now he's going to give up the thin veneer of being a nice clown that's pleasant to children, and he just goes into full monster mode. And honestly, some of those facial expressions that I think really sells the
sharp teeth.
Especially through all that makeup too. Everything about it works incredibly well, and that's one of the real standout things that I remember from this movie. And you'd actually be surprised to see how much limited kind of screen time he actually has in the movie, given the fact that he's the most memorable thing about it. It's effective, creepy in all the right ways, but while also having kind of that playful edge to him. But it's not a way that necessarily makes you not take him seriously. And that's kind of the most important balancing act of playing this character, because it is very easy to go overboard and just come across as joke.
Yeah, the balloons popping were a real problem.
But overall,
sure, with me, I hate balloons popping.
Is this movie still scary? No, not really. As an adult, it's a lot harder to kind of buy into the scares, especially with how cheesy and corny it is. It has so much charm to it, but that's not enough.
Just because a movie corny doesn't mean it's bad.
That with through the lens of an adult is a compelling story about these friends, about these lifelong relationships. You kind of
I think the Nightmare on Elm Street movies are corny, but they're great movies.
Fear and how that changes when you grow up. Because the way that Pennywise manifests himself is very different early on. There's a lot more tangible things to be afraid of when you have the imagination of a child. It's so much easier to tap into those primal fears. And really, like the book says, when you grow up, your fears are a lot less tangible. You're worried about things that are a lot more prevalent when you're an adult. Death, losing people. There's so many things that are just a lot more complex, not as easy to kind of manifest. And adults are so kind of disconnected.
That scared me too when the balloon popped in the sink.
Tap into it or use it against them.
It's even more bloody in the fucking remake.
And it's so interesting to watch.
This scene scared me when he pops out of the fucking drain.
The viewership of it as a child versus an adult, and it kind of comes across the Rorschach test. You will most certainly not have that same experience, but it almost feels like it reflects how these characters begin and where they end, from their childhood fears to kind of those lingering things that still stick with you as an adult. I still really enjoy this movie. I still have a lot of love for it.
I love it too.
It still to be just as powerful, just in a very different way. Let me know what you guys think of it from 1990 in the comment section. I'd love to hear it.
I like it.
Have a good one.
I still to say I like that movie. Not as scary or as frightening as the other two new ones, but that's supposed to place in my heart. I didn't grow up with it. It was one of the first horror movies I ever watched, so I have a lot of love for it. Shout out to my buddy Jam Light. I watch his videos a lot, so he's a great YouTuber. Go show him some love. I'll try and put his channel in the info box below. But yeah. Have anything to say, Megan? Oh, go on, say something. She's shy. And with that said, guys, thanks for watching. Take care. And tonight, when I record another video, I have something to say about my experience meeting a certain celebrity. That's your hint right there. For those of you who don't know. And yeah. With that said, thanks for watching. Take care. Peace out. See you guys next video. Bye bye.